on this female-dominated panel.
I'm used to being the only one.
Okay, well, good. There we go. So I just want to start with people getting a bit of an understanding about your backgrounds, right, and your connection to HBCUs. So tell us about your connections to HBCUs and about your entrepreneurial path. So Jay, we'll start with you.
Hi everybody. How are you guys doing? I'm Jay. So I came to Morgan State. Funny story is I was supposed to go to Duke. My mom was very upset that I chose to go to an HBCU instead, being that she felt that going to Duke as a legacy would benefit me in my career. However, I had the opportunity of going on a college tour here when I was at NJIT doing a program at NJIT, and I loved the campus. It wasn't as beautiful as it was as coming up. It was, still in its growing stages of change and transformation, but it stuck in my mind, and I applied to a lot of schools, but this one came through, and I said, I'm going to Morgan. And I became an entrepreneur around 19. I came to Morgan at 17, and I ended up having a great experience. I transferred, got an internship in the city, at a media company now known as Hollywood Life. And it just really opened my mind to being in the industry as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer. I started working in media, fashion, music, entertainment, sports over the last 15 years almost. And it's been a great experience. And then from there, I started a tech company about 6 years ago. And it is the first on-demand platform to host 8 markets that each generate up to $900 billion in revenue. And it's also the first to have 6 user interfaces and over 50 streams of income. Yes, and I also created a charity to coincide with that. It's very near and dear to my heart, and that's kind of how I started. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you tell us the name of that startup?
Spotlist Inc. And Fashion Entertainment Media was what launched me as a PR expert, grew into a marketing strategist, and now I've rounded out to a business strategist for the last 10 plus years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mac.
So I'm matriculated here at Morgan State University. I had a great time, had a lot of fun. Studied computer science. Ended up leaving Morgan to take a job at Northrop Grumman, working for the Department of Defense with a top secret clearance as a government contractor. After that, I went on to be a 2-time entrepreneur. My first company I sold to American Express. The second one didn't work out. Then found my way to the investment arm of the state of Maryland, the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. I was the first person of color they ever had on their investment team. While there, I also started what is now known as the Builder Fund, which is the first and only state-backed pre-seed fund for women and minorities in the country. The governor put that onto the state budget in fiscal year 2020 and is going strong. And then 2020, I left that job to start RareBreed Ventures, a $10 million venture fund based here out of Baltimore. We have invested into 42 companies. The vast majority of those companies are ran by folks who are self-identified as underrepresented individuals.
Thank you, Mac. And I just want to point out, Mac is an OG in this game and advocacy work too, because what he didn't talk about is a lot of the advocacy work that he's been doing for a very long time to create access to capital and also using his experiences as an entrepreneur. So thank you.
Well, it's kind of hard to follow the OG, right? But my name is Morgan Brooks. I am the owner of Competence Consulting Company, started back in 2020, so right around the pandemic. We focus in business development and digital marketing. And so I actually transferred to Morgan. I started my journey at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, and some family issues happened, and my grandma got sick, and I was like, let me be a little bit closer to home. So Baltimore, Maryland is my home, and so I was like, let me just come back to Morgan and see what they have to offer. Studied business administration and was very, very excited I got to enjoy the Earl G. Graves new business building. So that was a perk. Sorry, Jay, you missed it. But so I've been in business for about 3 years. My journey was a little bit different. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but knew I had to gain experience from someplace. And so while in college, I worked at T-Mobile, kind of worked my way all the way up until assistant manager. Probably would have had my own store had I not just stepped out on faith and say, you know what, I don't know if I want to be right back up in everyone's face, touching their phones with COVID happening. So I was like, how can I use my skills of being personable, use my knowledge? I said, put my BS to use, right? So my bachelor's of science. And so that's when I just decided to start my business. And I really started small, but now I have one of the largest contracts that I've probably ever had so far to date, working with a nonprofit. But I started small with just word of mouth. People were like, hey, can you make me a website? Hey, can you make me a website? Which I really focused on in school, learning how to create websites. And then from there, I was just like, I'm going to keep running with it. So I have 2 large clients, and still kind of growing. So I'm the baby of this panel, but I got a lot to offer.
Thank you. It's okay we want to show every aspect, right, of it. So Jessica?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Smith Hebron, and I wanted to come to Morgan ever since I was watching A Different World. And I went to Virginia Commonwealth University for my undergrad in theater education, and my job as Chief Program Officer at Arts for Learning Maryland, being the first Black person on the leadership team, brought me here to Baltimore. So I was like, well, I'm making all my dreams come true. I'm applying to Morgan, and I just have to say, first of all, I love Baltimore. And I love, love, love going to Morgan. It's one of the best decisions that I've made. The support that we get, the amount of opportunities that come. Everybody who's sleeping on Morgan needs to wake up. Wake up. This is the best school, and the Earl Graves School of Business is very important to me because when I was about 12 years old, one of the first books that I read was Earl Graves' book, How to Succeed in Business Without Being White. So if you can imagine, my Babysitters Club that I started when I was 12 became my first business. And from there, the passion for children in everything that I do. Creating businesses to help children to connect to Black history. My first company was Culture Kingdom Kids and still is. I've had that company for 13 years. And we've done everything from having major contracts at the Smithsonian, being there at many Smithsonian institutions, being their artist in residence, which I'm currently, and many other different, actually 12 different Black history museums across the country. What I do with Culture Kingdom Kids is I create empowering entertainment for your royal children. And that means that when there's exhibits that come in that are really adult-centric, I work with those museums to make sure that those concepts children are getting so they can develop a cultural sense of pride from my education background and things like that. With Arts for Learning Maryland, I am, as a Chief Program Officer, I supervise 250,000 students arts programming across the state of Maryland, making sure that every child has an opportunity to be inspired through the arts. And part of that is our Blacktastic Children's Festival that we started in the pandemic. That is a virtual festival that we've had for 3 years now, and to date we've had 43,000 students attend virtually that celebrates not just Black history, but specifically, because I am a proud Maryland native, Maryland's Black history and culture. And so I would say that entrepreneurship and all of these things, they work together in my life because they connect to 3 things that are important to me: my Black history, children, connecting, all of those things, and making sure that our generations are getting early and often opportunities to be connected to making their dreams come true.
Well, and I think that's a great segue to talk about each of your experiences at Morgan and why, like, how did Morgan and being at Morgan fuel your entrepreneurial endeavors and dreams?
Okay, so, you know, the last panel I had with Dr. Foster, I was talking way too much. But now that everybody here is just personable and going in, I'm not going to monitor myself. So today, I'm going to give myself 30 seconds to say whatever I have to say. So to elaborate, Morgan, honestly, when I came here, it wasn't, I think the best thing was the culture. And I think that's why I chose Morgan, is because I felt that here I would be amongst my peers and of culture, like same cultural background, same social background. And honestly, like he said, we had a great time. We had a great time. But I think the professors here also took an extra interest in us succeeding and giving us opportunities to not just use the resources on campus, but outside of campus. That's how I found my internship in the city. It was hard for me to leave Morgan, but being the ambitious woman that I am, and I believe even back then for me, it was very important that I become independent. And I wanted to do that. I felt strongly about doing that because there really weren't a lot of people, and even still I feel, that are really in your corner as a woman of color in business. There's a lot of undervaluing us as entrepreneurs and as business minds, and I think that's really what I felt here on campus, is that I got that support from my professors and my peers to go on and do it. You can do it, Jay. You're smart. You have the research. You have the personality. Go on. And I think my communications professor is the one who taught me how to outsource. And having 2 jobs, working, going to school, those resources and those connections that I made on campus and off campus allowed me to build my business, have the confidence to build my business, not just for what I'm doing in marketing and as a business strategist, but also just when I was started off on campus, MySpace was a thing. And I was coding the backgrounds. Back then, having certain features on your pages was a big deal. Having falling stars and all these things on your homepage, not just to promote yourself, but also for your businesses as well. So I had people on campus coming to me to code that, and also to create their websites and their decks as well for their businesses, and anything that they might have wanted for themselves personally. So that was the start of my business entrepreneur endeavors here. And then once I transferred to New York, that really allowed me to have the confidence after a year of interning to say, I have this in the bag. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna freelance. Probably should have stayed a little longer, but I learned a lot from that, trial and error. I think that's a huge part of the experience of being an entrepreneur, is realizing there are more fails than there are wins, and that's because you're learning as you go and learning as you grow. And I always tell people that what will get you is not necessarily the financial, but the mental and emotional of seeing your peers graduate. Thank you so much. Seeing your peers graduate and you're still grinding, you're still hustling, you're still trying to build your business. And if you don't have supportive parents or a supportive group from college or resources to help you, the emotional and the mental will get you. And you'll say, you know what, my friends are going on vacation, they're getting cars, they're getting their first houses, where am I? And if you can kind of just focus on what you're doing, I think that's what I had to do, is really focus on me, cut off Instagram, cut off the notifications, and really just focus on what my goals were, and not trying to worry so much about perception of what other people were thinking. Oh, what is she doing? How is she doing it? Oh, she's supposed to be an entrepreneur. She's not, her business isn't this, that, and the third. And just focus on my own timeline and not worry about anybody else. So I think
it allowed you to pour into you.
Yes.
And then allowed you to build the confidence to move without fear in the world.
Fear and confidence started here at Morgan with the resources, the community, my schoolmates allowing me to, become my clients essentially, and getting me started with the MySpace, the coding, and all of that. So it definitely did. It definitely did.
For me, Morgan State prepared me to have the skills to get the greatest job I could ever dream of at the time, making more money than either one of my parents had ever made combined in their careers. But I got an internship with the government because I snuck into a job fair on campus for graduating seniors. I was a sophomore. I ended up getting an internship there, and I met this gentleman by the name of Patrick Jackson, who went to Howard at the time, who was obsessed with being the Black Mark Zuckerberg. Well, he was the first of my friends who quit his job and moved to California because some dudes who used to work at Google decided to give him some money. Like at the time, I didn't have